You want to go take a look at Nanci Pelosi's home? The ex-52nd House Speaker, former Congresswoman Nanci Pelosi. She lives in a nice little humble home here in Pacific Heights. And I say humble rather jokingly. Let's go take a look. Okay, Nanci lives in one of the more upscale neighborhoods in San Francisco, believe it or not. If you can believe that. She does not live in a little rundown working class neighborhood. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I actually like those neighborhoods, but obviously, you know, a person of Nanci Pelosi's stature has to live where people of stature genuinely tend to live, right? And that's in the nice, well-to-do neighborhoods such as Pacific Heights in San Francisco. This is one of the wealthier neighborhoods in San Francisco. It may not be the wealthiest. There are a few other neighborhoods that rival Pacific Heights in terms of property value and wealth, but Pacific Heights is one of the wealthier neighborhoods, and it's one of the older wealthy neighborhoods because this neighborhood basically, it really came into being after the great San Francisco earthquake of 1906. Prior to the earthquake, or around the time of the earthquake, I should say, most of the population lived closer to downtown San Francisco, where downtown is, and they lived a little bit closer to the water. But after that earthquake and the subsequent fire pretty much wrecked a large portion of San Francisco, a lot of the wealthier people relocated westward, maybe 3 miles or so west of downtown to this area. And one of the reasons that they chose this location was because of the bedrock, believe it or not, the ground upon which this neighborhood was built was and is a lot more stable than the ground closer to downtown San Francisco and closer to the coastline. So it was the stability of the ground that initially led a lot of people here, you know, and then obviously the people that were wealthy enough chose this spot because they wanted to live someplace solid. And there goes a self-driving car. Those things are all over the place up here. Those Waymo self-driving car, Jaguars. I mean, they are all over the place. Sometimes you see 3 or 4 or 5 of them in line driving behind each other. And I've actually seen quite a few buses, the new Waymo buses. You see quite a bit of those driving around. So it's kind of cool to see. But here we are in Pacific Heights. All these homes are multi-million-dollar homes. And it occupies a nice ridge line. Overlooking the San Francisco Bay, way out in the distance there. And I will say there also that there's a 3-block portion of Pacific Heights called Billionaires Row, believe it or not. So Pacific Heights is wealthy, but if you're like uber wealthy, like if you're part of the 1% wealth or 0.5%, then you might want to live in Billionaires Row, which is, like I said, a 3-block section of Pacific Heights. So there's even a more upscale part of Pacific Heights than just Pacific Heights proper. And there goes Mr. Waymo. I still think it's kind of cool seeing those things drive around without a person inside, just those self-driving cars. I know they're pretty ubiquitous nowadays, but it just still seems so strange. And that's looking east. I'm standing on the corner of Scott and Broadway, and that's looking east out towards downtown. Downtown is pretty much out in that direction. The Bay Bridge is way off in there in that direction. North Beach, Little Italy. But I am going to show you now, I'm coming up on Nanci Pelosi's home. And the actual street that actually leads to her front entrance to her driveway is actually a private street. It's a cul-de-sac, but Broadway basically runs right along the side of her house. And her house is that big red mansion that you see right there. And I'm going to walk up a little bit further and give you a better look. I am going to try to be as inconspicuous as possible because she normally has police presence in front of her house. All the times that I've been up here, there's almost always a police car, a sheriff's car, an SFPD car parked in front of her house. And I'm not sure if that's just because of she's a high-profile politician, someone who's well-known, or if it has something to do with when her husband was attacked. If you remember, about maybe, what was it, 5 or 6 years ago, her husband was attacked by some crazy nut that broke into her home and attacked her husband with a hammer. So I'm thinking that maybe her ongoing police presence that she has may have more to do with that attack than just with her celebrity status. Okay, it doesn't look like she has police protection today. Maybe they got the day off, or maybe they're on sabbatical. But I know Miss Pelosi, should I call her that? I know Nanci Pelosi, she has a home in Washington, D.C., but this is her West Coast home here in San Francisco. You wouldn't have to twist my arm to live there. I mean, I wouldn't mind just living in a spare bedroom in this house, man. I wouldn't mind just being her houseboy, personal chauffeur, gardener, pool boy. I'd be willing to occupy any one of those roles in exchange for housing in this nice old home. See, so that's the little private street that leads basically right to her front. And she doesn't quite live at the top of Pacific Heights, but she lives awfully close. So that's the crest right there. So she doesn't quite live at the very top, the echelon of Pacific Heights in terms of elevation, but she lives awfully close. So there you have it. This is where she lives in relation to, that's looking out towards downtown San Francisco. And there you have it. She's done awfully well for herself, right? Not bad at all. Okay, I hiked to the top to give you a little different view of Nanci's house. I'm looking at it, looking towards the east, and there it is. And just for reference, I'm standing on the corner of Divisadero here, and from here you can get a nice view overlooking the bay. You're looking out towards Fort Mason down at the bottom, going towards Lombard Street down there, and yeah, it's a beautiful view. You can't see the bridge, the Golden Gate Bridge from here, but it's just a little bit to the left, and then Alcatraz Island's off to the right. And you can sort of see the lights of Sausalito out there, vaguely. But yeah, that's about it. Coming to you from San Francisco, California, signing off.